The future is actually built twice. Most people think the future is something that happens later, but it actually isn't. The future is being built right now, inside decisions that look almost meaningless today. The workout you skip, the book you don't read, the skill you keep postponing, the money you spend, the money you save, the conversation you avoid, the person you keep becoming, the opportunity you say yes to, the opportunity you have enough discipline to say no to, the system you build before you even need it, the warning sign. Think about that. You notice before it becomes a crisis. None of these decisions seem capable of changing your life when they happen, and that's exactly what makes them dangerous, because consequences usually arrive later than causes. Human beings are very good at feeling the present. We are terrible at feeling the future. You can feel hunger right now. You can feel exhaustion right now. You can feel lust right now. You can feel fear right now. You can feel the excitement of buying something right now, but you cannot physically feel the financial pressure that purchase might create 6 months from now. You cannot feel the body that 500 workouts will build. You cannot feel the expertise created by 5 years of studying. You cannot feel the reputation produced by keeping your word for a decade. You cannot feel the opportunities created by becoming unusually capable before anybody is looking for that compatibility. The future whispers, the present screams. And if you never train yourself to hear the whisper, the present will continuously rob you of futures you could have had. This is what I want to talk about, not predicting the future and not pretending you can control everything, not drawing some perfect 10-year plan for you and expecting reality to obey you. No, I want to talk about something I call future architecture, the disciplined practice of deliberately improving your position relative to an uncertain future, because you cannot control everything that happens to you, but you can become much harder for circumstance to control. So the future is built twice, and almost every human being exists twice. A building exists first as an idea, then as concrete, steel, glass, and wood. A company exists first as a model, then as people, systems, products, and transactions. A film exists first as a script, a storyboard, a shot list, or imagination, then as images on a screen. Your future works similarly. There is the future you can imagine, and then there is the future your behavior is actually constructing. Those are not always the same future. You might imagine yourself wealthy while repeating behaviors that create financial fragility. You might imagine yourself healthy while building a body through sleep deprivation, inactivity, and terrible nutrition. You might imagine yourself knowledgeable while spending every free hour consuming information you never retrieve, test, or apply. You might imagine yourself independent while designing a life that collapses the moment one employer, one customer, or one source of income disappears. And that is the first principle of future architecture. Your intentions do not determine your trajectory. Your repeated behavior does. This is why one of the most powerful questions you can ask yourself is, if I repeat this, where does it lead? Not, how does this feel today? Not, can I get away with it this time? Not, does everybody else do it? No, those are killing you. Ask, if I repeat this behavior for 5 years, what kind of person does it produce? What kind of body? What kind of mind? What kind of bank account? What kind of marriage? What kind of career? What kind of reputation? What kind of life? Because one action can lie to you. Patterns usually don't lie to you. So stop thinking in moments, think in trajectories. A single workout is almost nothing. 1,000 workouts can completely change your body. Reading 10 pages today feels insignificant. Reading 10 pages every day for 10 years can transform the architecture of your entire mind. Saving $50 once means very little. Developing the habit of living beneath your means, accumulating capital, and investing for decades can change the freedom available to you. Keeping one promise seems ordinary. Becoming known as someone whose word means something can eventually become one of the most valuable assets you possess. This is the strange nature of compounding. The beginning often looks unimpressive. Yes, it does. It feels terrible. It doesn't really feel that great. You don't really feel anything. But that is why people quit. The reward is delayed. The root, and let me not say you don't feel anything. I guess I could say is that it is your job for you to feel yourself into the future. Because again, the reward is delayed. So how can you give yourself the incentive to keep doing the right thing? The root grows before the tree becomes visible. And we live in a culture that trains people to judge progress by what they can immediately see. views, likes, money, weight, promotion, recognition, the visible scoreboard. But many of the most valuable things in life spend a long time underground. Knowledge, trust, skill, reputation, physical capacity, relationships, judgment, character, capital. The early stages of almost every compound process are boring. Then eventually something strange will happen. The invisible accumulation becomes visible advantage. People call you lucky. They say you appeared out of nowhere, but you don't appear out of nowhere. You appeared out of 5 years they weren't watching. This gives us another law. The greatest strategic advantages are often built long before they become useful. That matters enormously right now because technology is changing faster than most people are updating themselves. Artificial intelligence is changing how knowledge work is performed. Automation is changing what one capable individual can accomplish. Entire industries are being restructured, and the worst time to begin preparing for a major change is after everybody agrees that the change has arrived. By then, preparation has become competition. The advantage belongs to the person who was studying while everyone else was dismissing it. Learn to see what hasn't happened yet. Strategic thinkers sometimes look like a sidekick. They're usually not. They are paying attention. They notice weak signals, small changes, repeated patterns, new technologies, changing incentives, shifts in language, shifts in behavior, things that seem insignificant individually but become meaningful when connected. This is one of the most valuable distinctions I've learned. Information is not the same thing as observation. Most people consume an enormous amount of information, headlines, podcasts, posts, tweets, videos, arguments, notifications, but consuming information does not automatically improve judgment. You can know more facts and understand less. Observation asks different questions. What is changing? Why is it changing? What would have to be true for this trend to continue? Who benefits? Who loses? What skills become more valuable if this continues? What becomes obsolete? What is everybody paying attention to? What is almost nobody paying attention to? What is the second order consequence? What happens 5 years after the obvious thing happens? That is how you begin seeing around corners. Not by becoming a prophet, by becoming a better student of casualty, because the world leaves clues. Industries rarely disappear overnight. Relationships rarely collapse without signals. Health rarely deteriorates without patterns. Companies rarely become irrelevant in one afternoon. Financial fragility often announces itself through small habits long before the crisis. A small problem ignored long enough can become an expensive problem. And this gives us one of the strongest principles in the entire system. Large consequences frequently cast small shadows before they even arrive. Pay attention to shadows. Every decision has descendants. One of the biggest mistakes people make is evaluating a decision by its first consequence. You take the higher paying job, great. That's the first move. What happens next? Maybe it adds a brutal commute. Then sleep declines, training disappears, stress increases, your relationship suffers. Now the higher salary has a completely different cost. Or maybe you start a business. Fantastic. First move, launch. Second move, acquire customers. Third move, fulfill the work. Fourth move, maintain quality. Fifth move, build systems. Sixth move, manage cash flow. A business idea can be brilliant while the operating structure underneath it is terrible. The same is true with purchases. People ask, can I afford the monthly payment? That's a first order question. A better question is, what is the complete cost of ownership? Maintenance, insurance, interest, depreciation, time, and my favorite, opportunity costs. Loss of liquidity, stress. Every decision has descendants. One move gives birth to another condition. That condition creates another decision. That condition creates another decision, and that decision creates another consequence. That is why I like a simple 3-question sequence. What happens immediately? What probably happens after that? If this pattern continues, where do I end up? Run important choices through these 3 questions: jobs, relationships, business deals, large purchases, partnerships, new projects, habits. The goal isn't to perfectly forecast what will happen. You can't. The purpose is to stop pretending that the first consequence is the only consequence. Every yes contains a hidden no. This one is especially important if you're ambitious, because ambitious people usually don't struggle with a lack of opportunity forever. Eventually, the problem becomes too many opportunities. Another business, another partnership, another project, another platform, another skill, another idea, another invitation. Another person asking for your time. And suddenly, you're doing 15 things badly while convincing yourself that this is ambition. It isn't. It's strategic dilution. Every yes contains a hidden no. If I give 3 hours to this, those 3 hours cannot also go somewhere else. If I invest $20,000 here, that capital cannot simultaneously fund another opportunity. If I commit emotional energy to one relationship, that energy is not unlimited. If I build 5 companies at once, each company competes for cognition, capital, time, and execution. This does not mean become narrow forever. It means understand the cost of commitment. Opportunity cost is not merely a economic idea. It's a law of life. Time is finite. Attention is finite. Energy is finite. Money is finite. And because resources are finite, strategy requires exclusion. A good opportunity can still be the wrong opportunity. That sentence alone can save people years. A good opportunity can still be the wrong opportunity, because the question is not, is this valuable? The question is this more valuable than what it will replace? That is a much harder question and much more useful. Build options before you need them. This may be one of the deepest forms of wealth. Optionality. Having good choices available when reality changes. People usually think of wealth as possession. How much money? How many assets? How large the house? How expensive the car? But another form of wealth is how many valuable choices do you have? If you hate your job, can you leave? If your largest customer disappears, can the business survive? If one technology makes your current skill less valuable, can you adapt? If you are injured, does your health infrastructure help you recover? If one source of income disappears, do you have another? If a relationship becomes destructive, are you psychologically or financially dependent that you cannot leave? If an opportunity appears tomorrow, do you possess enough cash, knowledge, credibility, time, or skill to take advantage of that? That is optionality. Saving creates optionality. Skills create optionality. Health creates optionality. Relationships create optionality. Reputation creates optionality. Knowledge creates optionality. Systems create optionality. Technology creates optionality. A broad, intelligently built skill stack creates optionality. A broad, intelligently built skill stack creates optionality. And this is where sovereignty becomes practical. A person with zero margin is easy to control. If missing one paycheck destroys you, your employer possesses enormous leverage. If losing one client destroys your business, the client possesses enormous leverage. If you cannot think independently, whoever controls your information possesses enormous leverage. Sovereignty isn't yelling, nobody tells me what to do. Sovereignty is building enough capability, margin, and judgment that you actually have choices. Build before you need it. There is a cruel pattern in life. By the time everybody agrees something is necessary, you are often late. The best time to build health is before disease forces you to care. The best time to build savings is before the emergency. The best time to study AI is before your profession demands it. The best time to develop leadership is before somebody gives you authority. Listen to me very closely. This is strategic thinking. This is what I mean by building in the future. The best time to build relationships is before you need something. The best time to build an audience is before you have something to sell. The best time to build a reputation is before the opportunity. The best time to build systems is before growth exposes their absence. Preparedness looks unnecessary right until the moment it becomes priceless. This is what I call pre-positioning. You position yourself before reality creates the obvious incentive. That creates a symmetric advantage, because when everyone else begins reacting, you are already moving. And this is an important distinction. You do not need to know exactly what will happen. You simply need to ask what preparation would remain valuable across many possible futures: health, communication, writing, learning, capital, technological literacy, strong relationships, clear thinking, adaptability. Those are robust investments because they remain useful under many different scenarios. The best plans are built to change. There is another mistake people make when they start thinking strategically. They become obsessed with the plan. They confuse discipline with rigidity. But reality does not care about your spreadsheet. Markets change, people change, you change. Technology changes, information changes, a lot of things changes. A plan should serve the destination. The destination should not become a servant of the plan. Think about navigation. A pilot flying across the country does not hold the controls perfectly still and say, "This was the heading I chose 3 hours ago and I am disciplined." That will be insane. Wind changes, weather changes, traffic changes. The pilot continuously corrects while keeping the destination in view. Think about that. You gotta pivot. Life works the same way. Strong strategy requires two things that look contradictory: commitment and adaptability. Yes. Commitment to what matters, adaptability in how you reach it. Be stubborn about worthy principles. Please, be flexible about methods. And most importantly, what I want you to do is do not confuse changing your mind because new evidence appeared with quitting because something became difficult. Those are not the same thing. Sometimes persistence is courage, sometimes persistence is stupidity. The difference is feedback, which gives us another law. A long time horizon without feedback becomes fantasy. Or maybe I should even say fantasy, because I think fantasy is a very positive, optimistic thing. I guess you can say, a long time horizon without feedback becomes an illusion. You need the loop. Project, act, observe, correct, project again. That's the strategy. I'll say it again. The loop is project, act, observe, correct, project again. That's the strategy. Better futures begin with better questions. And I didn't mean to say project, I meant to say project. Before an important decision, most people ask the easiest possible question. Do I want this? Can I afford this? Can I do this? Will this make me feel good? Those questions aren't useless. They're incomplete. Try adding better ones. What am I actually trying to accomplish? What problem am I really responding to? What happens if I do nothing? What does this cost beyond money? What becomes impossible if I say yes? What assumption am I making? What information would change my mind? What am I refusing to see because I want this to be true? What if I'm wrong? What would I tell someone I love if they were making this exact decision? Where does this lead if repeated? Does this increase or decrease my future options? Does this move me toward the person I intend to become? Questions determine what your mind searches for. Ask a small question and you create a small decision space. Ask a better question and suddenly information appears that was always present but psychologically invisible. Judgment often improves before the answer appears simply because the question improved. Build systems so your mind can think about what matters. Strategic thinking also means understanding that cognition is a limited resource. You should not repeatedly spend high quality thinking on low quality decisions. What am I eating today? When am I training? When am I writing? Where do these files go? What happens after I publish? When do I review finances? What happens when this recurring problem appears? If you make the same decision repeatedly, eventually it should become a standard. Then a checklist, then a routine, then a system, then when appropriate, automation. The purpose of a system is not to turn you into a robot. The purpose is to protect human judgment for situations that actually require human judgment. That is why routines can increase freedom, and to a certain extent. When predictable decisions are already handled, cognition is liberated for creativity, strategy, relationships, unusual problems, and opportunity. I don't want to spend my best thinking deciding what happens next in a process I've already performed 100 times. Build infrastructure, then think above it. And also, with that being said, you're going to be messy, you're going to be unorganized. Embrace it. The whole point is for you to keep coming back, for you to keep returning to the system, for you to keep returning to the work. Create more luck surface area. This is something that you can think about. There is one last idea I want to challenge. People talk about opportunity like it's something that flies through the sky and occasionally lands on somebody's head. Sometimes opportunity does arrive unexpectedly, but a surprising amount of opportunity can be engineered. You can become more skilled, you can publish your thinking, you can introduce yourself to people, you can ask questions, you can build things, you can teach, you can help somebody, you can start the conversation, you can run the experiment, you can create the product, you can enter a new room, you can study an emerging field, you can become visible. Every one of those actions increase your exposure to possible opportunity. You cannot guarantee luck, but you can increase your surface area for it. And when opportunity finally appears, preparation determines whether you can capture it. Luck without preparation often looks like I wish I could. Luck plus preparation sounds like I'm ready. Reverse engineer the person. Now we reach the deepest part. Most people design life forward. What do I feel like doing today, then tomorrow, then the next day, then suddenly 10 years pass? Future architecture works backward. Start with the end, not some fantasy mansion. The person. Who are you trying to become? This is your highest version of yourself. Visualize it. Who are you trying to become? What must that person know? What must that person be able to do? What must they refuse? What kind of body supports that life? What financial structure supports it? What relationships support it? What habits support it? What character is required? What systems are required? What skills become prerequisites? Now move backward. If that person exists 10 years from now, what had to be true 5 years earlier? If that was true 5 years earlier, what had to begin in year one? And if that had to begin in year one, what has to happen this week? Now the future is useful. It gives criteria to the present. You stop asking, what do I feel like doing today? And start asking, what does the future I'm building require from me to do? What does the future I'm building require from me today? That's a radically different way to live. The final law. There is a sentence I want you to remember from this video. The future is built twice. First as architecture, then as reality. But reality will never reproduce your architecture perfectly. And that's okay. Because the purpose of the blueprint was never perfect prediction. The purpose was orientation. You cannot command markets. You cannot command other people. You cannot guarantee health. You cannot eliminate tragedy. You cannot eliminate uncertainty. You cannot force reality to honor your plans, but you can continuously improve the quality of the person meeting reality. You can become more capable, more prepared, more observant, more disciplined, more adaptable, more skilled, more financially resilient, more physically resilient, more intellectually independent. You can notice problems earlier. You can ask better questions. You can think beyond the first consequence. You can build options before you need them. You can compound things that matter. You can refuse opportunities that pull you sideways. You can build systems that protect your attention. You can prepare while preparation still looks unnecessary. And you can keep correcting the route without abandoning the destination. That is future architecture. You are already building your future. Already you are. You may be like, oh, I'm not productive enough to be doing that. I'm not really putting much thought into it. Every decision that you make, whether it's good or bad, whether it's evil or good or whatever, satanic or godly or whatever, yin yang, whatever decision you're making, you're building your future. That is literally who you are. There is no neutral position. There is no such thing in life as staying the same. You're either getting worse or getting better. What you are right now determines what your outcome is. The only question is whether you are building it deliberately. That's the only question. Or allowing whatever happens to be urgent today to build it for you. So think farther. Watch the trajectory. Study the weak signals. Protect your options. Build before you need it. And remember, you cannot control the future, but you can become increasingly difficult for the future to defeat. That's all I got for you right now. Thank you all so much for watching. Like, comment, share, subscribe. If you want to read my newsletters, my in-depth newsletters that goes really into depth into reality and how we can build for our future and build ourselves to our highest version and personal evolution and all that beautiful things, all that fine stuff, subscribe to my Substack, read my letters, and yeah, we'll be back very soon. Deuces.